The plot is Moore's unsuccessful quest for answers, from Roger Smith.
It was a documentary about my hometown of Flint, Michigan, and what General Motors did to the town. And so I go on this quest in the movie to find Roger Smith to see if he would come to Flint.
Well, Toronto's answer to the Cannes Film Festival is now in full swing. The 14th annual Festival of Festivals is a 10-day movie marathon featuring 322 films from 38 countries.
Back in 1989, we didn't know who Michael Moore was. Loved the movie, Roger and me. We absolutely loved it, so it was kind of a rave fave inside the festival, which absolutely became a rave fave outside the festival. So we were all dying to meet this Michael Moore.
Well, I don't like documentaries, and
in comes this guy who looks like a truck driver with a beer belly and the hat, and you go, I don't get it. How did this happen?
I can't stand to watch PBS. And all these, when I first started, all these people told me about, getting grants from PBS and all that, and I just thought, well, that would kill me right there.
I rate Roger and me absolutely the best, and that's for two reasons. I have a very soft spot for first films. That's me.
My mission was a simple one, to convince Roger Smith to spend a day with me in Flint.
But I also have a really strong feeling about movies that have an enormous impact on what other filmmakers do from that moment forward.
I wanted to show the destruction of the city and how General Motors closed down the factories, why they did it, but do it in a way that was humorous and, appealed to people on a level other than just a very serious film.
At that point, the film was such a hit that all of the buyers were jumping all over each other to get his name on the contract. And he kept on with the hayseed popping out of the teeth act and the truck driver kind of appearance, and we thought, well, wait a minute. Who's the smarter one here? Because he's now jacked the price up, to 3, 4, or 5 times the asking price.
The progression, from 50,000 to 100,000 to $1.5 million to 3, it kind of made sense, but only when you look at it as a whole. You couldn't really say at any one moment early on, yeah, we're going to get to 3 million.
This was that magic moment that happens in film. Then he had been discovered, so everything was on the table for him. The stakes were very, very high.
With the success of Roger and Me comes a critical rap that Michael is taking liberties with the truth and the chronology of events for greater dramatic effect.
He's been found to have fabricated or invented or carpentered a number of distortions and outright lies into his narrative.
No, stay with him. She'll turn it up.
In Flint, the local university theater troupe is rehearsing its play about Michael Moore.
Sorry, guys. We seem to have lost the video feed. Let's continue live from the studio.
While researching the script, the director discovers several startling fabrications in the film Roger and Me.
Turn it up all the way.
He talks about a town hall meeting that's supposed to take place in Flint, in downtown Flint, where Ted Koppel and Nightline are going to come and cover this town hall meeting.
When Ted Koppel announced he would interview city officials live in front of City Hall on Nightline.
And then he goes on to show a news report where a reporter explains that that broadcast with Ted Koppel is not going to happen because the broadcast truck has been stolen by an unemployed auto worker.
Apparently, though, just moments before the broadcast, someone got in the satellite truck and drove it off, cables and all. So now Nightline has had to cancel their segment from the city of Flint, and police are looking for a suspect.
And the fact is that's all actually completely fictional. He made up the news broadcast, he made up the theft, it never happened. He made up the actual town hall meeting.
There's covenant, I do believe, between a filmmaker who calls himself a nonfiction documentary filmmaker and the audience, that what you're putting on the screen, what you're saying is a fact. And that includes the time sequences and everything else, because that's the audience relaxes and says, okay, I'm going to accept what this man is telling me. I may not like his point of view. And in that case, he didn't do that. He'd broken that covenant several times.
He broke the taboo on people going to see a documentary in a theater. He made it sexy again. So the debate on what he has done to the documentary doesn't really interest me. What interests me is what he did for that form, getting it to the people, the masses, into the mainstream, and getting it taken seriously by the distributors.
Leave the real world behind and step into the largest indoor family entertainment center in the world.
To encourage tourism during its economic decline, the city of Flint builds an auto theme park, a hotel, and a new shopping mall. But Michael makes it seem like this all occurred after GM laid off 30,000 workers.
Anyone watching Roger and Me would come away from that film thinking that one night Dan Rather gets on the news and says the entire town of Flint has been fired, and subsequent to this economic catastrophe that happened, Flint set into motion 3 public projects to cauterize what had been an economic hole that had been blown through the community. That's not the way any of it happens, as it turns out. They had been developed, built, and failed of their own accord before there had been any kind of firing.
Chronology issues aside, which I just can't really take seriously, I think it's an enormously honest film. Because if you just spent half an hour in Flint, Michigan, you just really wouldn't debate whether there was a direct correlation between plants closing and 30,000 jobs going away and the complete decrepitude, if that's a word, of the town.
In an interview for his magazine, Harlan Jacobson confronts Michael about the manipulation of time in Roger and Me.
Did he answer the questions when he asked about the chronicity? I mean, did he say, well, this is why I did this, or quite frankly, you're right, but it makes for better movie making, or to...
Never. It just simply veered off into some strange, eerie Twilight Zone form of paranoia. The conversation took a completely different, crazy train of thought. He accused me of working for Roger Smith, the then chairman of General Motors, that I worked for Lincoln Center. Lincoln Center was in bed with GM. It became a highly paranoid display rather than a conversation of documentarian and a journalist critic.
Shortly after the article appears in Film Comment, Harlan Jacobson is fired. In the years before Michael finished Roger and Me, Flint, Michigan had been held hostage by General Motors. The company threatened to pack up and leave if their property taxes weren't slashed. Jim Musselman and his boss, Ralph Nader, were big critics of GM's demands. Nader had already fought the big 3 car companies on many issues, particularly auto safety.
We had started this whole campaign of bringing Roger Smith to the communities where they were asking for these huge tax abatements. What was amazing to me, the most incredible thing, was it was a coalition of working class people trying to get Roger Smith to address what was going on in their communities.
We're dealing with all kinds of issues that were related to job loss, and we were sounding an alarm for that.
At this grassroots meeting, Mike Westfall and Jim Musselman invite Michael Moore to speak.
This is very, very significant that all of these people, Teamsters, UAW members, teachers, black groups, women's groups, peace groups, have all come together for the first time. This is a very significant event.
We had a public meeting in Flint, Michigan, where 500 people showed up and wanted to fight against General Motors and did organizing, did petitions, did everything. We had people with bullhorns for Roger Smith protesting outside the GM building. And Michael had all this filmed, and I was like, this is great, you know, this is incredible. But at that time, the movie was called Dance Band on the Titanic.
While editing the film, Michael shows his friend Jim Musselman a rough cut. He's surprised to learn the focus of the movie is Michael's quest to talk to GM chairman Roger Smith.
He sat there and told me that everything dealing with the citizens movement, everything dealing with the workers, the union people, that was always on the cutting room floor. I sat there and I was like, what happened? All of a sudden, the whole movement changed into Michael.
Months later, while promoting his film, Michael forgets about his allies in his struggle against GM.
You got a lot of help from, among others, Mike Westfall, a proud UAW member, Jim Musselman, an attorney.
He made it look like he came out of nowhere and this was his vision, and it wasn't.
That's not true. Oh, that's a lie.
They worked hard on, they fought General Motors' back. Please let me finish my, you do get to speak.
I don't know who these other people you mentioned, attorneys from Nader's office, hand-delivered